Let's take a stroll down memory lane, going back almost a decade to the day when I got a call from my school administrator who broke out in news that would eventually change the trajectory of my life for good. I had failed to progress into the final year in school. I had two options: repeat the same year in school and lose an entire year of my life, or drop out of school, leaving a decade's worth of relationships and childhood memories behind in order to attend a mediocre educational system in an attempt to save the year. Which not only at that time, but even until today, is an idea that's somewhat frowned upon. There was only one thought that kept running in my mind. Faraz, you've not only failed in school, but you failed your parents, and most importantly, you failed yourself. Now let's get one thing straight. Given my track record back in school, I don't think anyone would have been surprised of the result. It was no one's fault but my own. In fact, it was a fear that was there in the back of my mind during the course of the entire year. I hardly paid attention in class. In fact, I have the faintest memories of actually attending any class to begin with. The only memories I have was training for 3 different sports to represent the school on multiple platforms. In fact, it wasn't just myself at the time. If memory serves right, the number of students that failed to progress into the next year was unprecedented in the school's history. One of my very close friends at the time had the same fate. Unfortunately, it was a result brought onto him out of extraneous influence in order to pursue the science stream. Unlike myself, he chose to repeat the same year again, and today he's a pilot in one of the largest airlines in the world. In fact, one of the youngest ever hired, if I remember correctly. Another very close friend of mine, even until today, had the same fate twice in a row. It got to a point where his parents actually abandoned him, considering him a lost cause, which eventually led him to leave the house in order to find his own calling. Today, he's a flight dispatcher in one of the largest airlines in the world again. He's happily married and has a beautiful 6-month-old boy. I could go on about a couple more, but I'm sure you get the gist of it. Now, if there's one thing that I'd like every student and every child watching me take away from this, is that it's okay. It's okay if you don't come first, second, or third in class. It's okay if you're not good at a particular subject, be it math, physics, chem, bio, social studies, or any of the umpteen subjects out there. It's okay if you don't know what or where you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years from now. Because more often than not, you'll have gone a very different path than the one you intended. I personally know people who graduated with flying colors, not only in school, but even in universities, and yet never found a career that fulfilled them for years before they found one, or some are still in search for one. And most importantly, it's okay if your childhood dream and years of hard work put into making that dream a reality is not panning out the way you intended. Because trust me when I say this, if you decide to keep believing in yourself, if you decide to hustle day after day, night after night, and if you decide never to give up, most importantly, if you decide to take all that adversity thrown at you by your parents, friends, society, or the community that you live in, and turn that into the fuel that will drive and propel your hard work, there's something far greater in store for you than you could have ever dreamed of. Now for the parents watching me. This by no means is a get-out-of-jail-free card for children to excuse themselves from education. Instead, it's a hard-hitting reality that we need to face head-on and begin to steer away from the generations-old mindset that correlates positive grades to a successful career. We need to force a change that will not only teach, but even provide a platform for the children and youth to find meaning, purpose, fulfillment, and most importantly, self-awareness in their lives, instead of allowing an educational system that has barely evolved over the past few decades or arguably even a century. I know and I fully understand that change can often be a difficult and scary concept, but it is inevitable. Charles Darwin said that it is not the strongest of species that survives, nor is it the most intelligent species that survive. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Now, this topic will remain incomplete if I choose to leave out a final anecdote of a person who's been one of the biggest inspirations of my life, even until today. He was a rebel back in school, and he was known for his mischief, and certainly not his studies. Just like myself, he failed to progress into the final year in high school, but instead decided to repeat the same year. Once he finished his graduation, he decided to follow the bandwagon and pursue the customary Bachelor of Business Administration. It was on his university orientation day that his eyes caught the attention of a particular program, which was the Bachelor of Media and Communication. Something about that program, something about the content and structure of that program intrigued him to the point where he decided to take a leap of faith, and he switched programs in the last minute. Needless to mention, he didn't hear the end of it from people close to him who suggested that he should have played it safe instead. Lo behold, that right there was his calling. Fast forward a decade, and today he's a producer with the likes of some of the biggest events and brands in his portfolio. If you ever get a chance to listen to him speak about his work so passionately, it's nothing short of Mozart playing his finest piece.